Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, which I did not prepare, but I would like to join to first sentence of Professor Csurgai, Árpád Csurgai, that Tamás was a gift, an absolutely memorable gift. He inspired me a lot of part of my career and my thinking. So first I would like to mention how we met first. There was a meeting at the Academy in 2002 or 2003, by the way, both years we met. That is a so-called in Hungarian MTU, which means it's a kind of festival, a feast of the Hungarian science. And then he and his co-workers gave 2 lectures, and many years ago, I prepared to be a mathematician, not a biologist, but I am right now, and I started biology. So it catch my attention very much, the title of the presentation, what is CNN? And we are just thinking about the Nobel Prize of Physicists last week. He was that CNN, so the computer neural network, just to raise the question, just to raise the idea, as Árpád mentioned, without internet, without high-tech computer science, he, for me at least, first time described what does it mean, that kind of network. And that is to be used for the recognition, like face recognition, etc. And that lecture was accompanied with analog programmable arrays, we just heard from Professor Csurgai. And I gave a lecture with a kind of title that love marriage between genomics and IT, information technology. And that was followed by a very, it's an absolutely surprise for me. He called me and invited to Stucky, and he asked us, myself and some of my co-workers, to speak about genomics. And that was in 2003, when we already planned to organize a world meeting of so-called immunogenomics and immunoinformatics. I am a biologist, I am an immunologist in principle. And I was speaking about that time, but we sat down before the lecture and after the lecture. That for me was even much more interesting than my own lecture. And then I was really astonished when he called me and asked about the details about the genomics, and young scientist, George Cherry, I think you were a PhD student at that time, and we sat down in my office, and we were discussing what kind of immunological questions could be asked. How, for instance, so-called T-lymphocites are attacking virally infected cells and oncogenic cells. What the odds of the successful targeting virally infected cell? And that was, if I remember well, you probably remember much better than me. We sat down approximately 4 hours, and that happened with a translation from Hungarian to Hungarian. I was speaking a biological language, they were speaking an engineering and informatician language, but finally we stop this discussion that very enthusiastically. So the common interest was could be summarized by the what does it mean CNN chips and how the chip can be provided for recognition of different forms and figures, even faces, or number tables of the cars, etc. And I also would like to mention Professor Joseph Hamori, who was one of my earlier mentors. He had a very famous book, entitled by that sentence, "The left hand doesn't know what the right hand does," suggesting that the two hemispheres of the brain are really asymmetric. And they became very good friends, and they really gave a lot of input for each other. And next, there was a concept how to get together the university, Semmelweis University, when I was and I am working right now like an emeritus. And that time, Theodor Tulassai was the rector of the Semmelweis, and we had some very good discussion what to teach, how to teach that kind of thinking to a medical doctor, and how and what part of the biology should be taught to the informatician people. And then the word came that bionic. Bionics means that biological electronics, and just the abbreviation of the two words. So the primary purpose was just to making a combination of engineering thinking and informatician thinking with the experimental medical thinking. There were two lines, as Arpad mentioned, first of neurobiology, and Tamás, who is right now the chairperson or president of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, represented neurobiology, and I got a big honor that I was asked to teach immunology, basics of the focusing on the informatical part of the immune response. In immune response, there are many cascade-like set of the events, like, for instance, the T-cell attack to the dangerous cells and complement activation. But the principle of the thinking was that how to organize joint trainings, what time should we start these joint trainings, not the first year, but the third or the fourth level, what are the conceptual perspectives, like for instance on the job market, how we get a chance to these students to find a good job and interesting job. And as it was very correctly emphasized by Arpad Csurgai, cultural and intellectual horizons of the scientific thinking. That was a kind of holistic approach of the thing, which in my opinion as well, it's one of the most important things. So I started to teach at a division at the faculty from just 20 years ago. It's an entirely different thing. Once at the evening, I had some consultation in at the department, and I heard at the first floor in his room music just coming out, and he was listening a piano concerto, D minor, and he invited me to the room, and we were speaking that what of the fantastic is the closing chorus of St. Matthew Passion. I was learning to play piano for 8 years. I was absolutely untalented, by the way, but I still love the music. However, very interesting that he told that he loves the jazz as well, the New Orleans style jazz, and again the country style as well. Finally, I would like to mention one of his initiatives to organize the so-called Collegium Esztergom with extraordinary personalities there. If you don't mind, I'm not going the list, but I was very honored to be invited to there. It was a fantastic and still existing, very friendly atmosphere, and very exciting spiritual and social issues were raised, and so that for me was a really fantastic inspiration how to think about my work, my aims of my life, about the future, about the society, and so on. So I would like to finish by that slide for you. Thank you very much for your attention.